Guys, welcome back to the Strive podcast. I don't quite know which camera to look at right now, but I'm looking at all of them. Great to have you with us.
I feel it's an upgrade to even have cameras.
Yeah,
Went through a period of just having to bang them out with nothing, but
it was just too hard.
Now and again, thanks to young Nathaniel. I call him young Nathaniel, like Rogan calls Jamie, young Jamie.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Feel like we actually have upgraded where we have someone able to look after us and walk in and be recording and clap-ins and everything. Feel very professional.
This is a luxury.
It is a luxury. How many podcasts have we done to get to here? I don't even know how many we are at.
If we combine them all, I think we got over 100.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
we had hundreds of thousands of listens,
Yeah, well, that counts.
which felt big.
Yeah. That's the main thing. Well, for us on the coast right now, it's a public holiday, which is one of the most ridiculous public holidays in the world. It is actually the most ridiculous public holiday in the world for a show, the Gold Coast show holiday that no one goes to the actual show. I couldn't tell you where the show actually occurs.
Neither do I. I have no idea.
So the rest of Australia is continuing on with business, and obviously we are continuing on with business, because to take a holiday for a show that doesn't really exist and then fall behind makes no sense. So we're quickly doing this podcast, and we're back on the tools to make sure everything keeps progressing.
Honestly, I usually love public holidays. I feel so productive during public holidays because when they're sort of national, because everyone just is away and takes advantage of the public holiday, and that's when you can sort of get into that deep work without distraction and achieve so much. It almost feels like you can get a week's worth of work just from that one day. But the problem with this day is we're the only state that so we're still getting...
But not even state, city.
No, we're...
That's what the worst part is. It's
yeah.
not like even like most of our clients, a couple on the Gold Coast, but if we've got clients in Brisbane, they're just like, hey, we need this. And everyone's like, oh, sorry, like just across like an hour away, we're taking the whole day off.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And all our teams got like our office replies on, so they should.
Yeah.
And, you know, they rightfully deserve the day. But then it's just like, if you have any urgent matters, contact Miles. Yeah. And I can already see my inbox is just filling up this morning.
Crazy, man.
So lots of fun today.
But on these days, often me and you are able to get together for a brief period, because whilst it may seem that we have a lot of businesses together and get to train together, rarely actually get to talk properly because we're so busy either answering other people's questions or having to try and get work out. And on days like this, we often end up getting to think a bit more around strategy and the likes of that type of stuff. But the strategy usually ends up referring back to often mindset and how we'll be able to attack something, because if we're planning a strategy, it's because we haven't done it before. Like that's really the reason you're creating a strategy, is to try and develop an outcome to a problem, or create revenue, or create an opportunity to deliver on something really, really cool. So I wanted to theme today around both one, strategy, and how to create strategies for you personally, for your business, for your life, for your friends. Could be anything. Like I think a lot of people forget the importance of actually creating a map. Like if you said to someone today, you're going to drive to Fitzroy, Melbourne, everyone would hop on their phone, type in an address, create a map, and then follow the map. But if you said to someone, hey, what would you like to do in 4 years? And they said, I would like to have $1 million. And you would say, how are you going to do that? They would never write it down. 99% of people would just go, I just want the $1 million. I'm not going to bother writing it down. I just that's what I want, but I'm not going to bother with the thought process behind it. I'm just going to arrive there, which I find crazy. I don't understand why people don't connect the two, but it's something that I know I've had questions thrown at me about. So wanted to, dive into that deep, because I know that when it comes to marketing strategies, it's something you're really big on, and you really, really take the team through how to develop it. And and then it's always a work in progress to arrive to a further destination or point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what a topic. I think the biggest thing when it comes to strategy, no matter what it is that people think maybe too deeply about it or overcomplicate it. I think that strategies should be simple. And I say that after probably preparing thousands of strategies for different clients in different industries.
And I'll also include within that, just not to interrupt you, but you'll also do fight strategies.
Yep.
And that will involve a video of looking at someone's tendencies for a guy that's going to be fighting. You'll do a marketing strategy for a client. You'll do a business plan, which is also another form of strategy. There's all different types. There's financial strategies. There's all different types of ones. So I don't want people to think that it's just around a marketing strategy only. It's across everything.
Yeah, it's about life.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's like, what's your life strategy? Just like you were talking about, what's my financial strategy?
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, I think that people overcomplicate strategy. And I think that the real goal is to simplify it. Because the more simple and understandable it is, the more likelihood that you're going to obviously follow those steps and achieve it. And I think that simplifying things is actually quite a hard skill to develop.
Really hard.
And I think that when, a lot of you guys out there might have an experience with someone where they're trying to explain something and they go into so much detail to explain something or share a strategy or a concept or a technique or whatever it might be, and it's hard to understand and it's hard to follow, high chances are that that person hasn't actually mastered that skill enough yet, or mastered the skill or ability to break what they're talking about down into its most simplest form. And I think that that is really an untapped skill that, we should be talking about a lot more. So I guess when it comes to strategy for me, it's all about achieving an objective. So I think, like you said, if we're putting a location in a map where we want to go, we know what the location is, okay? So I think the biggest thing for us is establishing what our location is.
Yep.
That's the objective. And I would advise, to be able to break your objectives down. So, you might have a long-term objective and you might have short-term objectives, but it's also important to be agile in order to achieve those objectives. And then if you guys listen to our podcast with Joseph Coyne, which should have been in the last episode, he talked about, was it pedagogy?
Yeah.
The term pedagogy, which is like the art of like learning and the art of thinking. And the way he explained it, which stuck with me so much since that discussion, was being able to think of something in its whole and then thinking of that same thing in its parts.
Yep.
And that's what I'm talking about. The whole is the objective. Now reverse engineer that objective and break it down into its parts. And that's essentially what the strategy is.
Yep.
How do we move forward and how do we take steps in order to tick off those parts in order to look at the whole or to achieve the whole?
I find something that I really underestimated. I often have these things where I naturally do now only because it happened to me and I got stuck or burnt out is within the strategy is people think, as you were saying, the more complex, the more illusion and things to it means that it's going to work. Like any machine, if there's too many moving parts to something, it will break down. And when it breaks down, often you can't even locate where it broke down because there was so many different things going on. It's like trying to go from here, and by here, call it Burleigh, to Coolangatta, and there's a motorway right there, and you can go straight on a motorway, or you could go down to the beach, cut back in, go back this way, and it'll take you maybe 2 hours longer. You'll probably hit traffic. You'll do all these different types of things. And by the time you get there, you may have missed your objective because time within all strategies is something that people forget about. They often think that we need to achieve X, Y, Z, and that could be revenue, that could be gain more followers, that could be a fight, that could be whatever it is, but you have infinite time. Like you've got finite time. You've got a small window to achieve whatever the outcome is. So when I've always looked at things, I now put time almost up front in terms of how long do we have to achieve whatever the outcome is. Do we have 3 months in terms of building something to achieve this? Do we only have 1 week? And then using the time limitation, because that will be your limiting factor, work backwards from there. If you have 1 week to do something, you need to condense everything into the shortest format you can. You don't have time to create huge, big content pieces. You don't have time, call it you were having a fight, you don't have time to do a huge S&C plan. You don't have time, you only have time really to map out what you're going to do and practice that skill that will get you and hopefully a win or your hand raised. Because if you spent all your time doing conditioning and you didn't do anything else, well, good chance is you're not going to be sharp. You're not going to have a strategy that will win you that fight. So I know time is something that I've now put at the first point when there's any strategy, and then I'll work backwards from there to try to work out the rest of it.
It's interesting, right? And there's a few things in that. I mean, time creates pressure. And if you don't really understand what the next step is, it can create stress, and then it can create inaction, and then you don't achieve anything at all. But it also depends on what your mindset is and your ability to be tenacious and just move forward without blocking yourself by perfectionism. Yeah. And I think that that's something that we've learned a lot over time. And I think that people starting businesses or starting their endeavor want it to be as perfect as possible because they see perfection out there from more established people or businesses. And I think that that's a crux. It's a block. It's a wall. The one thing I will say is, the analogy used about, look, we can just get right on the motorway and get ourselves to Coolangatta from Burleigh, or there's the long road. Sometimes, depending on where we're at in our journey, we might not know that the highway is right there. Yeah. But I will say that your journey to the beach and then down that back street and then that other back street, at least you're making yourself closer to the goal. Yeah. So you may not have gotten the quickest result and most efficient result and simplest way to get there, but that's kind of what I was saying before about, like, it's a skill to be able to build efficiencies and understand what those simple sort of next steps are. Yeah. So I think that that's kind of the trick, but you don't know what they are until you fail or do all the hard roads. I mean, how many hard roads have we gone down and continue to go down before we find efficiencies?
Countless.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, how many times do we message each other at night going, holy shit. Yeah. Like, why did we do that? Yeah. Why did we do that?
It's one of those ones where until it actually happens, and usually you end up looking back at it like almost years later, because at the time it felt like you did everything right. Because at the end of the day, before GPSs and all that type of stuff, it was similar. You would like open up a book and then go, okay, that's how to get there. And you would do your best to get there, obviously. And so in a similar vein, you don't know what you don't know. The one thing that I think we've leaned on more is going, there are people that have already taken that map or done that journey or had a strategy around that. If you can find them, you can ask them, and they'll probably cut off a whole heap of time, money, stress that you otherwise would have gone down, which is, I guess, kind of almost like the theme of what we try to do within what we do for marketing in one of our businesses, or what we do in other endeavors, is the aspect of going, we unfortunately and fortunately know what failed. Like, we know when we tried this marketing campaign of XYZ, the results were shithouse. Like, it looked good, and on paper it seemed like all these things were really great and everything, but we didn't get the revenue, or we didn't get the cut through, or whatever it is. But then there was another time where we just did this and that clicked. So rather than you spend your money and time to do all the things that we know from experience won't work, try this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we lean on in terms of some experience within the spaces that we sit in, because we can actively say we've put our dollars and time into it, and we know what worked and didn't work. And we continue to put our dollars and time into it and know what didn't work. So I'm in some ways excited that I feel we've covered a lot of things now that we know in pretty good context what does work, but in the new future we'll have an even greater platform and base to be able to say, man, we've covered a lot. Like, we know a lot of right and wrong things.
If you think about it, we've started and grown and sold some businesses in almost every industry, whether it's hospitality, marketing, software as a service business, gym business, product-based business, health, food, you name it. We've probably done it. And built it to a point where it's either sold or we continue to run now. So we've dipped our hands into a lot of different things. We're crazy and stupid, probably all of those things, but it's given us a good array of experience. But one thing that I'll point you back to, which I know you'll find interesting, is, and something that you always encouraged on us and on me and on all of the businesses we started, which I'm very grateful for, is to start them with a business plan. And I think that that's something that people always put to the side because they're so passionate about starting the business and, they're so excited about the shiny thing, which is developing the product and the label and all these things, but they don't have the business plan to begin. And that is the strategy in which you lay the foundation of the start of your business.
Sure.
However, when we look back at our original business plans for some of our businesses, where our businesses are today is completely
100%
different.
It's always different.
But probably the most recent one, which was the Sprout business plan that we did, was fairly similar.
It was the closest one.
The closest but it still wasn't exactly the same. Yeah.
And it's one of those ones where the brain, like your imagination, naturally pictures your perfect situation. So that's what your plan will be. It will be like, we're going to do this and we're going to achieve all these great outcomes. Like, you're not going to write there on the business plan, we're going to fail here or not do this or not do well there. Your goal is to achieve 100% success rate. And so you write those things down and you write out your goals. And I swear, and I've always believed this, that if you say something or write something out and there's a reference to it somewhere, it can be in your phone, it can be, I write on computers and phones because my handwriting's terrible, and two, I can't transfer that stuff easily to someone if I've written it in a pad. Whereas if we write into each other, we can send it to each other if we have a plan that's saved. Once that's on paper, I feel there's such power in that. And I'm not a religious or godly or type of person, but I believe there is something in the universe that says if you've put that on paper and you've given the time to take the thoughts in your head to put it on paper and you are able to put effort behind what you've written on paper, you're 50% of the way there. There's a lot more obviously to go, but you've put something into the world that means you're going to get closer to what someone didn't put on paper. I guess there's something to that power within there. So most people don't do it. I would encourage everyone to do it, because when you do it, the best thing that they teach you, and this is, we're not talking any secrets. You type in how to write a business plan on Google.
Oh yeah. You just download the government's template.
It's the first thing that comes up. Download it and fill it out as the template tells you to. And you'll see when you download the template, it says, write your exit first. It's like what every business plan, and everyone looks at it and goes, I don't want to exit. I want to have this business forever. And it's ridiculous. Like they're trying to teach you to say, if you don't have a way at one stage to sell, pass this business on to someone, or
be acquired by someone bigger,
then you've basically created a jail for yourself. You've just employed yourself into a jail because you can't get out. And you'll do this to the day you die, and you're not supposed to work in something forever. You're supposed to be able to pass it on, sell it, do something.
That's really interesting, and I think that concept there about exiting is probably something for me that has only become a real discussion point, or that's come to the forefront of business over the last 10 years or so. I mean, if you look at the generations before us, it's all about sort of like, family business that goes through generations and all of those sorts of things. Maybe that's their exit plan. It's about passing it on to their kid.
That's an exit.
And making it as good as the business can possibly be for their kid, and vice versa. Whereas I feel like it was the business people that already had the strategy in mind on how they wanted to exit that was always achieving the successes. And that was like the hack. And I remember when we were going through our business journey, we hadn't considered exits in a lot of the things that we were doing either. But then when we did, it changed the energy. It gave us a motivation. It gave us a purpose. It gave us timelines to follow. And we inadvertently started building strategies, which was lacking. So I think that, you need to have that you need to be able to see your horizon. You need to be able to see that end point, that gold medal, that finish line that you're racing towards.
With everything. Yeah, everyone needs that. And it doesn't have to be in business. It can be, if you started school, hypothetically, and were told you're just going to be at school to the day you die, who would go to school? Like if you didn't go, I'm going to get an education to go and do some type of work to earn an income, and I'm going to earn an income to allow myself to retire or look after my family at a certain time point, and that retirement can be 60, 70, and then I'm going to use the last 20 years of my life to enjoy the money that I've earned or super, then that's what your journey is. Like that strategy has been, rightly or wrongly, generally mapped out even from the day you're born. Like you're going into a system. Some people don't like that system. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's generally...
Bro, that's the biggest thing for me right now, to be honest. And I know that you've thought of it for a lot longer than I have, is my life strategy. I don't want to work forever and retire at the retirement age. I want to be able to build, a foundation for my life where I have some freedom and I can choose to work on the things that I want to work on at a particular time in my life. I know once you said, 40 is a time where you want to have the ability to choose what you want to work on and invest your energy into, and also choose not to do the things that you don't have to anymore. But right now you're doing the things that you have to do in order to build that foundation. The problem is that, and that's setting a time. 40 years old, that's a time, And
I've had that in my head since the day I was 14. Because I remember it.
Amazing.
And I remember it, weirdly enough, I remember it because my dad's age at the time was similar. And I was looking at him and I was like, he's worked so hard. He was a bit older than 40 by that time. And I remember looking at him, I think maybe 46-ish odd. And he was moving towards 50. And I was like, if he's given me a platform, or he's given me way more opportunity than I've ever had, and he was looking towards his 50, I was like, I should be 10 years ahead of that, being able to determine my work, my life. If I have kids, I want to be able to just go to soccer training with them and not have to go straight back to work, which is what I currently have to do, and all those different types of things. But if I choose to work on a Saturday, public holiday, I would choose to work. Well,
it's because you've got a strategy. You've got the strategy. And you know what needs to be done in order to achieve that.
I will say within that, I am definitely failing in that strategy, getting towards 40, because I'm 36. But what I'm going towards with that is, I'm not saying I'm failing. I'm saying that no different to you're on your Google Maps or Apple Maps and you think you're right on path, and then there's a traffic jam in terms of getting to a destination, and you just either divert, come back on course and make it. If it takes an extra year, it takes an extra year. It's not a massive deal.
So you're talking about being agile, which is really important. It doesn't mean you keep moving the goalpost. No. It just means that shit gets in the way sometimes, and sometimes you have to be agile and shift it, but not on your own accord because you want to keep working.
Not on your own accord.
It just happened, and you've accepted it, and you need to keep moving forward. But in saying that, you could easily reach that goal with the things that are happening. Or shit could just blow up and you lose absolutely everything and go to ground zero again.
Could do that. And the other thing to remember within those strategies and journeys is actually really good things that happen within that may shift the goalpost, but they shift it for a good reason. In my case, when I said that I wanted to do that by 40, I'm an only child, similar to yourself. And so I knew if I was having kids, I thought I was going to have one child. So when I had Ellis, I was like, I'm having one child, and that means this is still within I had built the whole strategy within that. And then I had a second psychopath, which wasn't a plan in all honesty, but it was the best thing that ever happened. But what I'm saying within that is that just because I had a second child doesn't mean that the strategy that I had was so fixed that I was like, oh no, that's outside of my life strategy of having another kid, which is now pushed the 40 back to whatever it may be. I don't.
What is it?
If I was looking now, it's more like 44.
Okay.
If I was going off the time frame, but man, the rate Kingston is breaking shit around the house and the money that I'm going to have to earn to keep up with the damage that he's causing in destruction, we could be looking at 60 at this rate, but he's still the best thing that's ever happened. So that's what I mean in the aspect that you don't have to be so fixated on the aspect of, oh, I didn't do this by this time point, so everything's gone to shit. There's probably a lot of good stuff that happened that caused it to maybe move a year, a few months, or whatever it is in a different direction. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
I was going to ask you a question, but I feel like we have such similar values that it probably turns into a bit of an echo chamber when it comes to this stuff. But I know that my friends get a little bit frustrated with me, and that's totally understandable with my idea of life strategy, which is my idea. It's not that I'm projecting it onto other people, but it's from my experience, just like you spoke about with your dad, with my dad. My dad's 60, works his absolute ass off. You know, he's in the music industry. He is, you know, literally the other day he's doing 8 p.m. till 7 a.m. or something. He's doing graveyard shifts at 60.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
And I think that my motivation to work on a public holiday and all public holidays and through Christmas, on Christmas Day, and doing all these things while I'm young will allow me in my strategy to be successful, being that I don't have to be my dad at 60 having to work.
It's funny you say that because it's like it's the exact same thing, and I think people are either motivated by what they see and not want to happen, or they're motivated by what they see and want to happen in a similar aspect. Because use that reference, my motivation was seeing my parents now after my dad's work and mum during their time period was hectic, but they had that plan to be able to do exactly what they're doing now. And that's what my motivation was, that I saw the outcome. Right now they're in Cairns. Like they just went, oh, we want to go to Cairns. No reason whatsoever, just picked up, left yesterday. You saw my dad at the gym.
Yeah, he looks so fit.
Yeah.
I literally thought it was you, bro.
Yeah. And so like he was at the gym at 3 p.m. odd. And I know it was that time because I had just dropped Ellis for jiu-jitsu, but I'm the one like running around, like dropping Ellis off, back to the office, came back, picked him up, back to the office type of thing. And he was just sitting there riding on an air bike. And then
he's doing a PT session.
Personal training session. And then he just randomly said to me, he's like, oh, I forgot to tell you we're going to Cairns. I'm like, when was that planned? I was coming to see you this weekend. He's like, figured why not? Yeah. And I'm like, that's what I would like. And it's motivated me to want to try and achieve that a bit earlier.
It's human nature. We're either trying to like move away from something or move towards something.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the energies. Yeah. But what I do get, you know, it's not frustrated, but I get worried for my friends and other people that aren't thinking about the long term. Yeah. My dad's not even really still thinking about like retirement. Yeah. He's being forced to. Yeah. Because he's getting to an age where he's like, oh, do I actually have enough money to survive when I can't work anymore? Yeah. Literally, his mind is still not registered about thinking about that. I'm fully locked in, registered, thinking about my retirement, and I'm 32. Yeah. You know, and I know a lot of my friends aren't thinking about that, and they think that they have a lot of time to think about that. Yep. And they, you know, live in this mindset that it's like, we just need to have fun while we're young and all these sorts of things, which I totally get. And to be honest, I'm having fun. Yeah. Like working hard can be fun. You know, you're always fulfilled. You're achieving things. You're providing something for your community. There's a lot of fulfillment in this. But I'm also building a foundation in my life which will allow me to achieve, you know, comfort or freedom at a point where I can no longer work as hard. Yeah. Whereas I can see the trajectory of a lot of my friends and people within my community where it's like they're not thinking about that. Yeah. And they will continue. They don't realize they will have to continue working as hard as what they're doing now or harder.
Man. It's
that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I've always tried to look at it from both ends, that you are only young once. You are only going to get certain opportunities to do certain things.
And maybe I will regret the decisions, but you have one choice.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've always kind of thought of it in the aspect of too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yes.
Too much work is a bad thing. Too much partying is a bad thing. Yep. Like there has to be some type of balance. Everyone's always searching for that balance. My strategy in life was basically, when I was younger, was do those things for a short burst at the end of the year type of thing, when I was employed type of thing. Yep. Don't go like, people talk about this gap year or do gap years, and they'll go travel for like 4 years. Yeah. And I'm just like, that is a long time off doing something. I know it's fun and everything like that, but 4 years at that time of your life is almost the equivalent of 12 years. It's
for sure.
It's almost like a multiplication. I'm like, I don't want to give up my progression where I can be in that time period. Yes, I want to go to Europe, the States, wherever, Asia, Japan, all these things, but I can still go there, experience it, have a really good time for a period, and get back to what needs to be done to keep growing and building and establishing what I would want for later in life, compared to going for this whole period, coming back and having to restart, and then going, all these people are already so far ahead of me. And because when I say far ahead, I'm referring to us in business, be it opportunities have been taken. Yep. As in, if I had started this then, I could have established a product, a service, a community, a follow, whatever it is, and be at this time point, but I chose to party for 4 years when I could have partied for 4 weeks, hypothetically. So that was where I was trying really in that back time period, go and see everything. The only countries I haven't really done properly was South America. I haven't done that in its entirety, but Asia, the States, Europe, all those things I've been fortunate enough to have seen. Maybe not have like lived in those places, but I made my choice to do that, come back and get to it. So, and now obviously work and family is the priority at this time point, but I'm hoping in a very soon time period, it'll be more family as the gear than work. And then from there, after that time period, when the kids have grown up and have gone and done their thing, it'll be more, now it's time for me to, as you said, like go and do those things. If I've got enough money at that time period and not having to worry about things, taking 5 years in whatever country, you can do it. Like it's affordable. I'm not slumming it. I'm able to do those things.
And look, like I and we are not projecting our ideals and values upon other people. I think I want to make that really clear. Everyone's like journey for themselves is completely different. And that's something that I've realized a lot over time. You can't force someone into your idea or your vision for your own life and feel as though that is what they need to do. So I'm very aware of that, much more aware of that now than I was before. It's just that, everyone's trajectory is different and people can have success at any age. And I also very much encourage that. Like even if you're in your 50s, 60s, whatever it is, there are plenty of circumstances and examples out there which showed people at those ages are creating successes. So you're never out of time, okay? It just does get a little bit harder. Yeah. Like that's just the reality of it. Yeah. It's going to get a little bit harder and you're going to have to be a bit more creative. You're going to have to remain tenacious. You need to be an expert in the space that you're in or passionate enough about it to spend a lot of time learning about it. You need to be in a position to do that, all those sorts of things. So, it depends. What is your strategy? Yeah. Have one. Yeah. Maybe consider you have one. Like recently, Holly, my partner, and I decided to prepare a finance strategy. Yeah. And it was the first time that we actually pulled up a spreadsheet and we looked at all of our expenses. What a great exercise, because we realized, oh shit, like we thought that we were being good with our money. And when we never buy anything, I never buy clothes or we never do anything. We just buy food. We go out to a movie, something like that. But we were spending the majority of the money that we were earning. Yeah. Okay. So it's just like, we didn't really have a great financial strategy and we weren't making our way towards our goal.
Yeah.
So we need to reassess what our strategy and our expenses. So we started moving things around. Instead of, spending $80 a week on coffee and spending $300 a month on coffee, we bought a $120 coffee machine which we have every morning, and we enjoy each other's company and we talk more and we're not distracted at the cafe anymore. And all of a sudden that one very small change will change the trajectory of our, the success of our strategy, of our financial strategy.
Really smart.
And that's just one thing, and we were able to do many things within that, So I think and I'm 32 and I'm only doing that now, So I'm encouraging everyone out there. It's like, have you done that?
Yeah.
What's your strategy? What's your financial strategy? What's your strategy on, on building assets? What's your strategy on, making your way to a retirement?
It's the funniest thing because, at the end of the year where everyone does that New Year's resolution, like it's the one thing that I'm all for it. Like I'm not against it. I'm not opposed to it. The thing that I've always been against is the people that will go, new year, new me. Then they'll go get blind on the 31st, wake up hungover on the 1st, say it's a new year. So that means new outcomes. Some may go, I'm going to do this, whatever they're hoping to achieve, which is great. You've put a goal down in general, but then they'll never put anything behind it. In terms of like, I'm going to, let's just use a really simple one, lose 10 kilos, because people often want to lose weight at summer and all that type of stuff. But they wouldn't have got the gym membership, hypothetically, by this stage, which is part of the planning of the strategy if you're going to lose it. Or if they need to do running, they wouldn't have got a pair of shoes to do the running. Or if they're going to join a community or a CrossFit gym or whatever it may be, they haven't researched what they're going to do for the exercise to lose it. They haven't researched what nutrition plan they're going to be on to do that. They haven't checked even their like basics, like what is my actual weight? Like they're saying 10 kilos, but what was your weight that you're going? Are you 60 kilos going to 50? Are you 70 going to 60? Like all that stuff is just completely left to just say, I want this, or I want to lose 10 kilos, but there's no way to get there.
We're talking about sort of like people are setting the goal, but then they're not.
No, there's nothing behind
There's
it.
no action. That's something that was interesting. One of our friends, I won't name their name, but they have a very famous app, a fitness app company. Yep. And I can't remember the exact numbers that he was telling me, but it was quite astonishing where it was like, we know out of the 100% of people that use our app, only 50% of them have actually opened the app since their purchase. Only, 30% have used it for more than, or have used it for 3 months. Only under 30% have used it for, less than 3 months or whatever it is, and only 5% use it consistently over time or something like that. Or 1% have used it for consistently over the year, whatever it is. Yep. And I'm talking about like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people. I would say millions of people like downloading this particular app. And it just shows, it's like, it's that whole thing. Oh, I want abs. So I'm just going to purchase this ab program. Yeah. And that purchase is going to give me the little hit of sort of like gratification. That's like, I've done what I needed to do, but you never actually even open the program.
Yeah. It's almost everything. Like it's like you buy the apparatus, whatever it may be, or the tool or the self-help book or anything like that. If you had got to the point of buying whatever it is, if you haven't created the path to even using it, then what was the point of buying it? Like just buying it doesn't solve all the things in the background that have clearly blocked you even getting there. Like, is it time? Is it energy? If it is energy, is it due to a poor diet? Mm-hmm. Is it due to a lack of sleep? If it was one of those things, what are you doing to fix the sleep or the diet or hydration or whatever it may be? Because a lot of people just don't think past what the problem is. So they'll just go, I can get this to fix the problem, rather than just going, it's like almost the cure versus the cause situation in almost every, and I don't actually blame anyone, because society has become just riddled with that, because even the news, like this whole time through COVID, use that as a perfect example where the concept was get a vaccine, get this to help fight COVID or stop getting COVID or do this. Or you could look at it and just go, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for everyone to be healthier, get more sunlight, get more exercise, eat better. They showed all the stuff that happens if you do all those things, what actually occurs. One, if you got COVID, you would breeze through it. Two, it actually created less chance of actually getting it, because your body had natural immunity to fight off those things, compared to fix it once you have it. That doesn't make sense. Like go the other way. Like
stay unhealthy. Pump this foreign substance into your body and think you're going to be all good and immune to anything that hits you.
So if that is what's being dictated to us, even by the media, you can completely understand why no one is even thinking at a level of like creating their own strategy towards it.
Yeah. So
it's a hard one.
A saying that I heard recently, which I thought was really effective for me, was in order to introduce something new, you need to take out something old.
Yep.
And when you start thinking about that, you're like, oh, that's actually really good. Okay, I can't keep that something old in there and introduce the something new that's meant to be replacing it. And instead of thinking of that something new as a Band-Aid, we actually need to use it to replace the something that's old.
Yeah, that is a good
one. And it's that one saying there is, my reference to breaking something down into its simplest and most understandable form. That's one there. It's like, okay, I've identified that I want to lose weight, and I've identified that every day at 3:00 when I get cravings because I haven't had a well-balanced, diet with, nutrients and macros that are making me feel satiated and healthy, and I'm not staying hydrated and all these sorts of things, I get this craving. And it's like, it could be something as simple as replace that, chocolate bar. Like, let's just use a really simple one. It's like, this wouldn't be the one that I would suggest, but it's like, replace a chocolate bar with some fruit, or replace the chocolate bar with more water throughout the day. That might be a mindset. It's like, don't get the afternoon cravings. Instead, prepare a meal plan throughout the day that you can stick to, that is healthy, to replace that, that bad thing. So it's like, it's just things like that, and you can be creative. Just create it. However you see it.
There was one thing that I noticed within often this, when I was talking to people. Everyone has their own challenges. Be it, you can't be good at everything. So some people are really, really good and efficient at reading complex tasks and creating solutions to it. Other people struggle. It could be with reading, it can be writing, it can be maths, it can be no one's perfect at everything. And what I found, and we were talking about it earlier, is like the simpler you can make things, the better. There was on the Diary of a CEO, another podcast that I love, with Stephen Bartlett. He was talking to one of the best hospo owners of all time, proven like to have created billions in the hospitality industry. And they were like, what is your secret to success? And he's like, I have dyslexia. And they're like, well, that's not a positive, that's a negative. And he's like, no, believe it or not, because I have dyslexia, nothing can be written in a long format because everything will become muddled to me. So anything that I needed to deliver to someone, or that needed to be delivered to me, had to be under a sentence, and it had to be clear, so clear that even the most complex thing had to be able to be delivered in one sentence. So I often hear people like will use something as a crutch, like, I would do this and my strategy is this, but I have whatever the crutch may be. It could be dyslexia, it could be like a short attention span, it could be ADHD, or it could be, but if you use the opposite effect of that, say it was ADHD, chances are you're super energetic. So you have a lot of energy, personality, you're willing to go. Sure, your attention span and being able to do things like for long periods of time, the one thing may not be there, but your ability to probably out enthuse someone will be there. So put that within your strategy, because you have to work to your strengths as well. If you're sitting there just going, I'm a person that hates reading and writing, but this strategy I'm formatting for this business is all about reading and writing, probably not going to work out for you. So if you're pushing things towards your strengths, whatever those strengths are, you'll definitely have them. Your chance of success is a lot higher. I feel people often forget about their strengths, will put something together that doesn't suit them. Like they may be super creative, but then they've created a plan that's all analytical. They may be really charismatic, but the plan doesn't include anything that's frontward facing. It's them in the background when they should be on the front foot selling. So lots that have missed in that space.
Yeah, and it's all about sort of like learning more about yourself, and you don't learn about yourself until you throw yourself into deep waters and you find what your thresholds are. And that's all the time why we talk about martial arts, because that is literally, you know, what you're able to achieve throughout martial arts. You're constantly tested. You find your limits. I mean, even last night, you know, one of the new guys that came to the gym got armbarred, and an armbar is basically like hyper extending your elbow joint to the point where, you know, if it goes any further, it will snap. And you know, when we're practicing things like arm bars, when it gets to a point of, you know, hyperflexion, you tap, your partner stops, and we move on, okay, or we reset. But something that I like is sort of, you know, when you're in those circumstances, you get a little bit more experienced. You learn what your threshold is to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, there's pain, but like, I'm okay. Where's the point where I think if I keep this going, it'll snap? Oh, okay, that's the set point. That's my threshold right now. And one of the new boys came to the gym, and you know, he tapped really quickly to an armbar, and he was kind of like, "Oh, I'm sore." And me and the other guy who was a bit more experienced were like, "He doesn't know his threshold yet. He can go a lot more, but he's learning. You know, he's like, oh, that hurt a little bit. And now I'm like unsure, and you could see his brain working. But it's just like, you need to you know, and that's why we say you need to fail forward. You need to fail to create success, because you need to know what you don't know and all these things. Something that I did recently, which was really beneficial, and I heard that you did it, was with a friend of ours who's I call him a performance coach, Luke Mathers, great friend of ours, and is just, you know, doing really amazing things in the performance coaching sort of space, with a particular focus on stress and being able to use stress to your advantage. And he wrote a book called Stress Teflon, you know, about, you know, giving you concepts to make stress not stick. And he made me work out what my 3 values are.
I did the same.
So, and I found that very interesting, and it made me think, and it made me go internal and think about who I want to become. And he created an alter ego for me, and we went through this exercise, and it was all about, you know, who are the 5 people that you would invite to a dinner table? There's someone within your tribe. There's a celebrity. There's a fictional character. There's someone from history. What are some of the attributes of these people that you admire? Write them down on the board. You know, now think about, like, if people were to talk behind your back and say negative things about you, write down on the board all the things that they would say. So you'd need to think, okay, what would people think about me that's you know, might be negative that I'm doing? And then he made you circle things, and he basically asked, within the next 3 to 5 years, let's work out who you want to become. And what are the attributes of that person? You know, what are the 3? Let's contain them to 3 values. And I worked out that I wanted to be caring, brave, and present.
Very similar to mine.
Yeah? And present,
Yeah.
And you know, one of those values was one where it's just like, maybe you haven't mastered that yet, and you need to aspire to grow into that value. And present was that one for me. You know, and you know, just doing those sorts of exercises to learn who you are, what your shortcomings are, what your strengths are, how you think other people might perceive you, just gives you a more of a holistic or worldly view of like who you are as a person, what you can achieve, and it will allow you to better set, you know, the strategies that we're talking about.
For sure. Luke, he was great in that aspect, even because I weirdly enough went to see him for me, obviously, but also in a weird way, I was trying to create a strategy. You're going to see him to improve your life, focus, and all these different things. I was trying to create a strategy for like my home life. Was the biggest thing that I was having difficulty with, and still working on. Still chat to him about it, because I was just like, it almost seems you would go to business with a mindset and all those types of things, and you would get home, and it's very hard to go from we need to do this, this, and this to going home to trying to go, we need to do exact same thought process, we need to do this, this, and this, and then having a 2-year-old going, I'm not going to do anything you say. Like, I don't care what your strategy is, this is my strategy, and that is to smash this TV or to do this. And you're just like, well, the strategy isn't working, and then that can become deflating, and then that obviously snowballs to all different types of things, but then you have to switch your mind to go back to work. And then the present thing that you're referring to was also the thing I was struggling with, because I couldn't be present because I was like, it's too much going on here.
So much.
Yeah. So he is great, and he's one of the guests we will be getting on, which will be, I think, really, really great for other people to hear what he has to say, and help with that.
I think it's like, and we're kind of getting into this thing where, you know, it becomes a discussion about like molding your environment to the way that you want to think as well. And that's it. Again, it's another skill, and it's another thing that, you know, you need to work on. And it's about finding little hacks that allow you to do those things. So it's just like, and I've been thinking about it, and it's like, you know, if I'm wanting to become more present because I can see that there's going to be value if I sort of achieve that to the best of my ability, like what are the environmental things that I need to change in order to sort of start achieving that, or building a strategy or a pathway to be able to becoming more present. You know, people always use the ones where it's just like, oh, when you get home, put your phone on do not disturb. And it's like, that's really tough, because it's like, don't look at your phone and stuff. It's like, yeah, but if you have the responsibility that we have, and, you know, when there's things that are pressing, which could literally change and alter the future of your business and your life, you kind of feel like you need to be on, you know. But I'm sure that there are ways and hacks in order to sort of like, you know, adapt. And there's going to be ebbs and flows. And so maybe there's not much going on, you know, right now, so you can do those things. Just, you know, look at your messages, but don't feel the need to respond, or, you know, make sure that you have time throughout the day where you have set that time to be present. And you know, you go pick the kids up from school, drop the kids off. You know, you might try and get to a carnival, Ellis's sports carnival, or you go and do your swimming with King on the weekend. It's just like really allowing and accepting yourself to be present in that moment, and nothing else matters. And also in these situations where we've built this podcast, that we have to be present with each other to have a valuable conversation. You know, and I think, you know, maybe the reason why we were encouraged and motivated to get back to doing these podcasts was, you know, because we were on a journey to become more present as well as anything else.
True. Very good point.
But yeah, your environment really does impact a lot. It really does impact the way you think in so many ways. And I think people don't use that hack to their advantage enough, or are just not aware of it.
Yeah.
I mean, man, there are studies. I was listening to the Sam Harris podcast once, and he referenced a couple of studies which I found very interesting about the impacts of you know, your environment on the way that you think. And one of those studies talked about expansive thinking, and your ability to you know, think creatively is really affected by, you know, the confines of your environment. So if you are if you're in outdoors, or if you're in you know, somewhere with a high ceiling or a cathedral or something like that, you actually have more of an ability, and the participants in this study, you know, showed that they had more creativity, more ability to think strategically and expansive than the people that were in a room with, you know, low ceilings, or that might have been a little bit more, you know, confined. However, when the requirement was to do more admin tasks or more singular focused tasks that they needed to action and get done. It was the people within those, more confined spaces that were able to hone in and get those tasks done.
That's really cool.
So even just thinking about that one study, it's just like, hey, do you need to, think about things? Do you need to, become expansive? Do you need to think creatively? Do you need to create a strategy? Go outside.
Yeah.
You like to go to cafes and you like to go to places where, you might be out in the open and you're thinking. And it's like, hey, if you need to get some admin work done or you really need to focus in on this task, go into your room and get the task done. The second study that he referenced was one about movement. And he referred to it as like the movement principle, where it's like, if you have a problem that you're trying to solve, if you get out and go for a walk, that momentum helps you feel as though you are moving closer to a solution.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're also most probably outside in an expansive place. So you combine the two and you're not only creating movement, allowing you to feel like you're moving closer to a particular goal or solution, but you're able to think creatively because of, the space that you're within.
Yeah.
So it's about like creating those hacks. And I know that like people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs used to always take his meetings walking.
Yeah.
It's like,
I do remember that. Yeah.
That's like a common thing that we hear all the time. And it's like, he's just weird and making people do what he wants to do. It's just like, it's like, he knew that they could solve like the world's biggest problems by being outside and walking.
That's smart, man. That's really cool. I think, noting we're nearing the time at the end of this, and we changed the thoughts ending process where we want to leave people with a question and a way to think. And noting we've gone through different strategies and we've been talking about it. And this question was more so from my end.
I have one for you too.
Yeah,
from someone.
From someone. Uh-huh. All right, you go yours first because mine will lead into the strategy question, but I'll go your one first.
Yeah. So. And it's something that you I love this, by the way. This is something that Sel just brought up, and I didn't even know it was happening. I love it. So I'm onto it. I'm asking people. And it's probably something you get all the time, and it might seem a bit generic, but I think that you can give a good answer here, and these people are genuinely interested in how you're able to achieve these things. And the question is, you have so many things on, whether it is family, whether it's multiple different businesses, and you're able to also maintain your health. How do you manage to juggle all of these things? And is it actually possible to juggle all these things? What is your strategy to dealing with managing multiple things on the go?
Yeah, it is a good question. I think the way I had tried to mold it, and it literally leads into the strategy conversation that we've discussed, was I realized from a quick time point that I'd always use the analogy of when you're on a plane, and they always refer to, if the plane is going down, put on your own mask first, because if you don't save yourself, you won't be able to save your kids or your family or your wife, because you will pass out from lack of oxygen or whatever's going on in the plane. So the thing I worked out first and foremost is, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not well, and if I'm not firing on all cylinders, I'm fairly well useless to everyone. So the thing that I have to do first is make sure I look after my health and fitness before attending to everyone. So the way I do that is by going to train at 4:45, 5 a.m. each morning. May seem impractical to some people, but it's the only way I can do it, because by the time the kids wake up at 6:30, my time goes to them, and so forth. So I put that within the strategy of going, look after yourself first as priority one for health and fitness. I don't think of it any different to brushing your teeth in the morning or anything. It's just something that has to be done because it ensures you stay optimal to be able to help everyone else. The second part of the strategy that I did, that we did, because we're obviously partners in this, was I condensed our lives into 3 kilometers square. So it may seem like I'm in a lot of places at once. Like people often go, hey, I saw you at your podcast, and then I saw you at your office, but then you're at the gym, but you were at your warehouse, but then I saw you at your kid's school carnival, but then you're at home. And I'm like, yeah, that's all 2 minutes away from each other. Like it may seem like there is a lot going on. Don't get me wrong. There's heaps going on, but within the strategy, I was like, I need to find a house to buy in Burleigh because it's going to be near my kid's school. It's going to be near Kingston's daycare. It's going to be near our office. It's going to be near the gym that I just said that we train at 5 a.m. And it needs to be near the warehouse. So to do a lot of things, if you're traveling and your time is spent traveling, you can't do lots because your time's taken up doing other things. So that was like the second part of the strategy of going, everything must be close because then I can do more within that time period. The third thing that I looked at within when I was thinking of everything was going, I'd made the mistake before, and this was a lesson learned, was I didn't have the right people around me. And when I say the right people, I'm not referring to them being smart or proficient or anything like that. It was just that I was getting not the best energy from them, which in turn wasn't giving me good energy to have good output, which in turn was just creating this bad ecosystem. So meeting Miles, then Miles introduced me to his cool community, and then I introduced him to my cool community of the right people. And then all of a sudden, if you've got good people around you, you'd be surprised how much other things kind of click into gear when you don't even mean it to. Like, I'll give like a really small example is we've got a photo shoot next Friday. Dazzy, who's one of our good friends that we train with at the gym, an absolute legend, train with him at 5 a.m. He's like, hey, I heard you guys have a photo shoot. Our time usually would have gone into finding a house, sourcing a house, scoping it, checking it all out. He's like, use my house because he's a great guy and he wants to help. And we've helped him. He's helped us. And it's like, that just saved a day, like a day of what would have otherwise been running around doing all these different types of things. It was just like, he's a great guy that we're connected to that helps us and we help him. And then you notice that all these other people start helping you and you help them, and everyone's lives become a lot easier. So whilst you have a lot on the go, you've got good people helping you, which helps you get a long way further. And then I think the final thing that I did within this was I made like a no excuse, must do type of thing where it's like, there's certain things you cannot miss and you have no right to miss, and you may be busy, but it's like if there's an athletics carnival for the kids or it's Jen's birthday or whatever it is, I don't have a reason to miss it. I'm busy and I work and I can work 14 hours or 16 hours a day, but there's certain things that I've put as priorities of never missing. That can be first. It can be a first soccer game. It can be a first athletics carnival. It can be whatever it is, that you have to prioritize certain things that everything else takes a back seat, and those back seats can be your own things. Like you have to put yourself second sometimes when you've made certain other things a specific priority. Those are like the main 4 things that I kind of used.
Really good strategies, man.
Yeah. To try and sort.
I just encourage the people listening to and watching to listen to what Sel said, but then also, apply it to their own circumstances and see if there are any hacks within there that you guys can use to your advantage as well.
Yeah.
That was awesome, man.
Thanks, man. I'm going to save my question
for
the next one because that way we can go like my turn, your turn, my turn.
Yeah.
Because I did, the last one was, that's right. I asked you the question last time and then it came from Ellis last time. So we'll wrap it up on that. And
awesome.
Thanks for listening, crew.
Thanks, guys.
Been good to get back into it.